Hey there, my name is Nicole Antoinette and I'm a psychic medium, and in today's video we are going to talk about the most common signs that indicate that your loved one in spirit is near you. The very first one on the list is probably the most common yet most overlooked, because it can really cause a feeling of confusion and disorientation in the person who has this experience. So first on the list is that you sense their presence. You sense their presence. What does that mean? Well, imagine that you are in bed at night. It's dark, you're thinking about your loved one, you're maybe cherishing some of your most precious memories of that person, and you start to just get the feeling, you just somehow know that there is an invisible being or person in the room with you. And even though you can't see this person, even though you can't really hear them, there's just a knowing that they are there. And you might even feel a sensation that you can't really identify, that you can't exactly put into words, because it is not a physical sense, although sometimes it might be. You might start to get like a tingling sensation somewhere in your body. You may start to feel as if your fight or flight response turns on, so your heartbeat may start to pound a little faster, beat a little faster. But for the most part, this is a very intuitive feeling. And if you're not someone who believes that you have good intuition, and especially if you don't believe in the afterlife and you're not sure what you think about ghosts and spirits and things like that, this can be really confusing, because then you also start to wonder, is this just in your head? Is this just in your imagination? And if you've never had this type of spirit visitation before, you might even be a little frightened. You might wonder if maybe something malicious has entered into your room. You might even wonder if you're hallucinating a little bit. So let me assure you that when you sense the presence of someone in the room with you, that is a very common sign that your loved one is in fact visiting you. It's not a hallucination. It is not something that happens to just a select few people. People from all different walks of life have experienced this phenomenon, and it usually repeats. You'll usually sense it more than once. I want to give you another idea of what this can feel like if you're still not sure if you've had this experience. So remember when you were a kid and your brother or sister and you all had this game where one of you would hide behind the corner. So your brother or sister would hide behind a corner and wait for you to walk by so they could jump out at you and scare you. Remember that game? We were all malicious little kids, weren't we? We just lived to scare each other. So we wait there patiently, or your brother or sister waited there patiently. And there were times when you sensed that your brother or sister was behind that corner. They didn't make a sound. They didn't giggle. They didn't sneeze. There was no way for you to know that they were there. And this may not have been a common routine. You know, it's not like they were behind the corner every time at 2 p.m. or 3 p.m. every day waiting to scare you. It would happen at random. But there were times, or maybe a time, where you just knew that your brother or sister was on the other side of that corner waiting to scare you. And it wasn't just annoying. It wasn't one of those things where like, oh, she's done this before, I wonder if she's going to do it again. It was one of those things where you somehow knew and you felt that he was there or she was there, because you were able to tune in to their energy. And remember, our bodies have their own frequency. Our spirit has a frequency too. So when a loved one crosses over into the other side, you're still in tune with their frequency, with the frequency of their spirit. So when they're able to come near you, when they're able to project their energy into the room, you're able to pick that up because you've been in tune with them maybe all of your life, or for at least a period of time while they were on earth. And so that's how they're able to project their essence there. That's how you're able to get in tune with them when they visit. So why you're able to pick up on that presence in the room. Second on the list is that you smell something. You get a whiff, you get a scent of something that is very familiar to your loved one on the other side. So for example, if you and your grandma used to bake cookies, or my grandma baked zucchini bread. It was just my favorite thing in the world. I loved her zucchini bread. And it, of course, since it's zucchini bread, had a very distinct scent. So if I get a whiff of that zucchini bread and no one else is around and no one in my life actually makes zucchini bread anymore, that was unique to my grandma, that's how I know that she's nearby. But your loved ones on the other side probably had different scents, different smells that were specific to them. So it may have been a particular perfume or a cologne. It could be a body wash that they used. Again, it could be a scent that's associated with them. So if your father had a specific brand of whiskey that he drank, or your grandpa had a cigar or a pipe that had a specific smell, you may notice that you smell those once in a while completely out of the blue. You'll be walking down the hallway, minding your own business, not even thinking about them. All of a sudden, woof, you get this scent that just rushes into your nose and floods you with memories. Our loved ones know that we associate certain smells with them. And so it is actually very easy for them to present that scent to us. So when that happens, when you're minding your own business, when you're doing the laundry, when you're going for a walk, and you get that scent and there's no one around or nothing around that can provide that smell, rest assured that your loved one in spirit is sending that to you to let you know they are right beside you. Third on my list is that you physically feel them. So if your sister in spirit used to play with your hair, or used to play with her hair frequently, you might start to feel a sensation of someone playing with your hair. You might get tingles in your scalp, or you might feel as if someone's just gently tugging on your hair. It's not going to be like like a pull. It's not going to be vicious, I promise. It's going to be this very tender and very light pull on your hair. You might also feel someone placing their hands on yours, like if you're watching TV or you're meditating or you're about to go to sleep, feeling someone's hand on yours is actually a pretty common sign. There are other ways too. For example, my friend Kimberly from Keep the Tail Wagging, so if you're a dog lover, be sure you check out her site. My friend Kimberly once told me the story about how after her dog Sydney passed away, she knew that her dog was still visiting her. And she told me about how one time she was laying in bed and she felt a dog jump up on the bed. And those of us who have had dogs and we've had animals, we're familiar with that feeling, right? So Kimberly sat up. There was no dog on the bed. There was not a single animal on the bed. And Sydney also had a certain presence and a certain way that it felt when she jumped on the bed. And that was the same sensation that Kimberly felt when this invisible force landed on her bed. So she actually got up and she checked the other rooms to find the other dogs, and they were both sleeping in another room. So she knew for sure it wasn't them. So of course she was like, "Hey, Sydney, thanks for visiting," you know? So that's another way that a physical presence can come through, like a physical sensation. Is it may not be something that touches you directly, but it could be a sort of sensation that you feel that's near you, just like someone sitting down on the couch beside you, or as in Kimberly's case, feeling her dog jump up on the bed. Number 4 on the list is that you hear their voice. I had a friend whose son had passed away in a car accident. It was a very tragic experience, very, very awful. And during the funeral, she was, of course, thinking about her son. And as she was talking to the funeral director, both her and the director heard, "Mom!" And it was very clearly her son's voice. Now, the funeral director had never heard her son before, so he couldn't identify, like, yeah, that's your son. But him being there and hearing the voice validated to this poor mom that there was a sound, because they both heard it. And a mother always knows the sound of her kid's voice, right? So they can come through at times when we're really down, when we're missing them, and it'll be obvious that it is them because no one else is around. No one else can mimic their voice, and it's not as if there's an electronic device that's on, like your phone on a YouTube channel, or it's not like you're on the tablet looking at Instagram and a video pops up of them. You know that there is nothing around projecting their voice, so it will definitely come out of thin air. So this is something that you will hear audibly. However, sometimes people pick up the voice of their deceased loved ones through electronic means. So there was one time where I was talking to a friend of mine on the phone, and she heard her grandma say hello while the two of us were talking. Now, I didn't hear anything, but she did. And that is something that spirits can do. They can hijack a phone call. They can hijack the speakers. They can hijack basically any electrical equipment that allows them to project their voice, and they can say what they need to say. Usually it's a very short sentence or it's one word. Every once in a while they may hum a song. I had another client who sent me fascinating footage from her security cameras. And her mom had passed away, I believe it was 2 or 3 years ago, so there had been some time there. And on the security footage, when no one was home, the voice of her mom yelled, "Jessica, where are you?" There was no one in the house that could have said that, but of course, her kids, her husband, none of them sounded like her mom. If you go back and you listen to a recording, or rather I want to say, if you're watching a video and you hear the voice of your deceased loved one, if you're on a phone call and you hear them, yes, that is absolutely one of the ways that they can come through. So it's really fascinating how spirits are able to use their energy to give us those messages. And I think that whenever you speak to anyone who's lost someone and you talk about different signs, there's always going to be, I would say, at least 1 in 5 who's had that experience where they've heard the voice of their deceased loved one after they passed, whether it was they heard them through their audible ears. You know, they may have heard them say a word, a phrase, or I've heard of people hearing their loved ones sing, so they may sing a part of a song. Or again, they can come through an electrical means, so such as video, recordings, or a phone call. Number 5 on the list is a dream visitation, and these are also very common. So the way that you can differentiate between a dream visitation and a dream that your loved one just happens to be in largely has to do with the interaction that you have with your loved one in spirit. In a dream visitation, you will notice that your loved one actually looks pretty good. Now, they may be presenting themselves at the age they were when they passed away, and they're going to be a very healthy version of that age, or they'll show themselves as being younger. So either way, they're going to present themselves as healthy, most likely very happy. They're going to have this lighter energy about them, and you'll probably notice that they have a certain glow about them. Not always, but that is something that usually comes through in a dream visitation. The setting for the dream visitation is going to be someplace that is familiar to you and very comfortable for you. So it may be in your current home, maybe in the kitchen or the dining room, the living room, or it could be in your childhood home. It could even be at an amusement park. If you have fond memories of this loved one at a specific amusement park, or an actual park, a regular park, a hiking trail, a restaurant, you might find that the dream visitation takes place there, because this is a place that is precious to you and also precious to your loved one as well. It's a place that was special to the both of you. And the message that comes through from your loved one will be very coherent. They will have something that they want to say to you, and they are able to speak very specifically on that topic. A lot of times in a dream visitation, the loved one coming through will comment on something that is currently taking place in your life, and they'll give you some type of message. They'll give you some type of hope or encouragement. They might even give you some advice. I once had a friend who told me how her deceased husband had come forward and visited her in a dream. And in that dream, her husband told her where her lost car keys were. Now, she woke up the next morning feeling a little frazzled and disoriented, and her husband had told her that her lost car keys were in between the cushions of the couch. And she had no idea how they could have gotten there. But she woke up the next morning, she went and she looked, lo and behold, that's exactly where the lost car keys were. So they can come through to give you advice or to help you solve a problem, but they may also come through to tell you that they're okay, that they're doing great. They might tell you who they've reunited with on the other side, and they may want to remind you how much they love you. They may want to come through and offer forgiveness. They will have a message for you that you need to hear. Now, it's also possible to have a dream with your loved one in it, but it won't be a visitation. And you'll know if that's the case because you're not going to have a lot of interaction with your loved one. If they're not talking to you and they're not interacting with you, if they're just standing there, then that's most likely a projection of your subconscious mind. If you have a devastating or traumatic dream about that loved one, that's most likely your subconscious mind trying to work through some type of trauma that you're dealing with. So a dream visitation is always going to have warm, fuzzy feelings to it, and it's always going to come with a specific, focused, and coherent message from your loved one in spirit. Number 6 on the list is that animals, birds, butterflies, and dragonflies suddenly seem to be very attracted to you or to your home. If you notice that there is an influx of activity of butterflies around your house or in your garden, and you don't have any plants or any colors that should be attracting that attention, that can be a really good indication that your loved one is nearby and is in the area, is near you, and is basically coaxing those different animals to come near you. I have a friend by the name of Debbie, and she told me this beautiful story that took place while she was going through my Embracing Heaven course. She had gone to visit her mom's grave site with, I believe it was with her nephew and her sister, and there was a lovely little bench there where she decided she would just sit down and write. And so she sat down at this bench, she opened her journal, and when she began to write, there's this brown butterfly that came up to her, and it had a broken wing. And there was just something different about this butterfly, and she thought, oh, that's interesting that this butterfly would happen to land on my journal when I'm getting ready to write. So the butterfly just kind of hovered there for a while, and not knowing what to do, Deb went ahead and grabbed her pen and paper, and when she was getting ready to write, the butterfly moved and came and put one of its little hands, or arms, I guess you could say, on her hand and just kind of held her hand for a second or for a moment. And that was a very special moment to her. She felt, Deb will tell you that she felt as if her wings were broken. Her heart was broken. She was really missing her mom. And there was just something so powerful about this experience. And she knew that this was her mom sending a message to her. Because how many times do you really go to sit down and have a butterfly land on your book or land on you and then come and put its arm on your hand, put its little tiny arm on your hand and just hold it as if it's sending you some type of a message. Butterflies aren't really known for holding people's hands. So that was, I believe, an experience that her mom sent to her, and Deb believes that too. So that's an example of how that can play out. So the way you can know if animals are a sign is because they will come to you when they're not in their natural habitat. So if you happen to see an animal that your loved one on the other side absolutely adored and loved, and maybe a fox comes to you or a wolf or whatever it is, and they are not in their natural habitat, you see them in a place you wouldn't normally see them, or maybe they walk up right to the door, that's a really good indication of a spirit visitation too. And maybe I shouldn't call it a spirit visitation, because it's not as if your loved one is the cardinal or is the dog or is the wolf or is whatever it is. It's more like your loved one is there coaxing that animal, coaxing those butterflies, coaxing the dragon near you to give you the sign that yes, they are still near you. Next on the list is that electronics act strange. In fact, while I was doing this segment just a few moments ago, my iPad actually decided it was going to chime in, and it's on mute, so I don't know how it was making any noise. But anyways, it was distracting me, so now I have to do this portion of the video again. But anyways, even that in and of itself could have been a sign that my loved one is near. But usually the signs are a little more extravagant than that. So what does this look like? Can look like your lights behaving really weird. That seems to be one of the most common ways that different spirits will use electronics. They will use lights frequently. Last year, an acquaintance of mine had passed away, and he started playing with one of the lamps that I have in my bedroom. So he was allowing the light of one of the lamps to kind of dim and then brighten up, dim and brighten up. And that was unique because that particular lamp did not have that type of setting on it. And the light bulb was fine. It was fairly new, and I knew that the light bulb wasn't going out. In addition to the light doing that, I just had a sense that there was a new presence in our house, like we had a new spirit. Later on that same day, just a couple hours later, was when we got word that this acquaintance of mine had passed away. And so of course that was very sad and but also very interesting that he came to our house and started playing with the lights. And he played with the lights in the room. He played with the lights in the studio. So he was just playing with the lights basically the whole time he was here. And he hung around for a couple days. Other ways that your loved ones can play with electronics is that they'll turn the TV on. They'll turn the TV off. They'll change the channel. They will allow... they'll play with the volume. They'll play with the volume on your TV. They'll play with the volume on your phone. They'll play with the volume on your iPad, like what happened a little earlier today while I was filming this. They will just start playing with your electronics, and that is to get your attention. So it's not meant to scare you. It's just meant to get your attention in the hopes that you're going to, of course, recognize the weird electronic behavior, but from there, start asking yourself, is that my loved one in spirit? That's the reason that they'll send you signs. It's not always to communicate. It's to get you to notice that something's off and get you to question what's happening. And once you're able to invite the electrician over, or you're able to check the light bulbs and you're able to see that everything's in working order, that's when you're going to start turning to the supernatural. And that's when they can start sending you even more signs, getting you, and, possibly sending you messages, because at that point, they will have gotten your attention, and now you're thinking beyond normal means. Now you're wondering, is that your loved one in spirit wanting to connect with you? And usually the answer is yes. Number 8 on the list is that you start experiencing a lot of synchronicities. Now, these synchronicities are going to be specific with some type of, I want to say, signature that your loved one had. And I don't mean like an actual signature, although for some of you that might somehow pop up as a synchronicity. It may be that, let's say that your loved one's birthday is on January 11th. So that date would be 111. Well, you start seeing 111 everywhere all of a sudden. You see it on billboards, you see it on license plates. Someone calls you from a number you're not familiar with, and 111 will be part of the number. You may go to pay for something at the store, and when they ring you up, it turns out to be $11.10. So there's the 111 again. And this is something that will happen frequently. So there's usually a short amount of time, a few days, maybe even one day. And those signs, that 111 just seems to pop up everywhere, and it's more than what is usual, right? So you're just bombarded by it. Another way it can come up is maybe you wake up thinking of a song, and it could be an older song from 5, 10, 20 years ago. It's not really something that's played on the radio that much. And as you get into your car and start driving to work, suddenly that song comes on. And then you get into work and you're in the elevator and that song comes on, or maybe it's somebody's ringtone, or someone else is humming it or singing it. Later on, you go into the store and guess what's playing? That song. And so again, with the music, you'll start to notice that it is popping up in a lot of random places, especially where you least expect it. And I wouldn't consider it a sign if it was a current song, because, current songs get a lot of airplay in a lot of different places. If it's an older song, and if it's a song that your loved one on the other side loved very much, or if it's a song that is special to you and there's something about the lyrics that maybe remind you of your loved one, that can definitely be a sign. So the type of synchronicities that come through are going to have some type of a connection to your loved one. That's how you'll know that it is in fact a sign from them. Number 9 on the list is probably my least favorite, because I think it's so annoying, but it's that things move. Things just disappear. So let's say you get home from work, you put your keys on the counter just like you do every day, and you remember putting them on the counter. You know, beyond a shadow of doubt, that you put your keys where? That's right, on the counter. And you excuse yourself from the kitchen because maybe you want to go change into something comfy, or you have other things to do. And when you go back into the kitchen, the keys are gone. They're no longer on the counter. No one else is home. No one else could have taken them. They are just completely gone. So then you get to play a game called Find the Keys, which can actually be really annoying, especially if you need the keys right then and there. So this actually happens a lot, where your loved ones are trying to get your attention, or they're wanting to play a game with you, and they'll move your stuff. It's actually really annoying if they move your stuff, and if they hide them, oh gosh, that's even worse. But maybe you like playing hide and seek with them, and maybe it's a game that the two of you had. So if so, then this might just be like a fun little adventure for you. And Spirit gets to call the shots on it. So yeah, you might even see things physically move in front of you. That happens frequently. You might notice that you get home and a picture has fallen off of the wall, or maybe off of your shelf, and when you pick it up, it's a picture of you with your loved one, or a picture of your loved one. So a lot of times they'll move something that is, again, significant to them in some way. So if they enjoyed playing chess, like on the movie Ghostbusters Afterlife, if you haven't seen that movie, go see that movie. It is so adorable. It quickly became my favorite movie, I think, right after I watched it. It's a really good time. There's a scene in Ghostbusters Afterlife where the spirit of, well, I won't say who the spirit is, just in case you haven't seen it yet. But anyways, there's a spirit that essentially starts playing chess with his granddaughter, who he's never met before. And I thought that was such a brilliant part in the movie, because His granddaughter is very analytical, very scientific, very strategic, and so a chess game is something that the two of them would have in common, and it would be a way that they could communicate because it's something they're both interested in. Because the spirit on the other side, in this movie, was also very analytical and also had a very scientific mind. So I thought that that was a brilliant, brilliant example of how spirit will get someone's attention by choosing a specific object to move. So your loved one will move things around that will give you a hint, usually a clue of which loved one on the other side is moving your things. But sometimes, like I said, it can be something random like your keys or a shoe, or if there is a jewelry, a piece of jewelry that's really precious to you, they might take that and move it. Why they do that, I'm not entirely sure. I think that sometimes they move it to get our attention, so that we'll start talking to them. So we'll ask them where it is, and maybe through that little game they can start giving us directions, and if we follow those directions and find the thing we're looking for, it can serve as evidence that we are in fact talking to them telepathically. Sometimes I've asked them not to touch my keys. Have you noticed that I have a thing about spirits moving my keys? I really just don't like that at all, because I don't like to feel stuck. So if I can't find my keys and I can't go where I want to, that's just not fun. I have wondered if the reason they do things like that sometimes is to protect us from something that might have happened if we had gone out, or, you know, for spending too much money, maybe they're hiding our keys to kind of save us from ourselves so that we don't go buy more Starbucks or more clothes or more whatever it is, because we need to be better with our finances. I do believe that there is a reason for everything that they do, everything that they move, everything that they hide or misplace. Just in that moment, we may not always know what it is. But feel free to ask. Feel free to ask. Spirits are very resourceful. They'll give you an answer. It may not be then and there, but hey, maybe they'll send you a dream visitation and tell you where those keys are. Who knows? Number 10 is you actually see them. You actually see them. So it could be a full apparition, partly apparition. And when I say that you see them, I mean you see them with your physical eyes. Yeah, you may see them with your mind's eye. And I don't want you to ever discredit seeing them in your mind's eye or hearing them in your mind's eye, especially if they are giving you advice and direction that is useful for you in that state of life that you're in. If they are sharing advice with you or sharing a story that turns out to be accurate, true, and helpful, that's a really good indication that the advice was from them and wasn't just a projection in your own mind. Because we all know our own minds, right? We know how we problem solve. We know how we talk to ourselves. We know our own thoughts. When a loved one comes through and they're speaking to us, and again, they give us advice or they tell us what to do in a situation and it works out, and we know that's not something that came from us, again, really good indication that that is in fact your loved one talking to you from the other side, and that you guys have found a link to communicate with each other. Getting back to this ability to see them, I am talking more about seeing them with your physical eyes. And so this could be that you see them from the corner of your eye. That happens a lot with people, where they'll see their loved one standing there or moving or walking by, and when they go to look, they can't see them anymore. And the reason for this is because the corners of our eyes actually have a different, I want to say, they just have a different way of picking up information. And the corners of our eyes are able to see things that the front of our eyes can't. So if you've ever seen someone or something out of the corner of your eye and you've turned to look and they're not there anymore, well, they're still there. You're just looking at them through the part of your eye that can't perceive them anymore. So if you turn your head again, you might see them again out of the corner of your eye, or you might not. It's kind of a hit and miss. So if you do happen to see them, whether it's a reflection in the mirror or it's a reflection on a window, or again, you see them out of the corner of your eye, you see them standing at the foot of your bed, that is a visitation, guys. That is definitely a sign that they are near you. And I know that it can be so easy to tell yourself that this is just in your imagination. But if that was a physical person standing at the end of your bed, you wouldn't doubt it, right? You wouldn't doubt your eyes at that point. So why doubt them now? Trust your experience. Trust what you're seeing. Your eyes are fine, right? Your eyes aren't broken. Sure, maybe you need glasses and contacts sometimes, whatever. But you know that you didn't make that up. So when your loved one visits you and you're able to see them physically, again, whether it's a reflection or a corner of your eye, however they show up, full apparition, part apparition, whatever it is, do your best to say hi. Be polite. They had to pull in a lot of energy to make that happen, to be seen, to present themselves for a few moments or a moment in the material world. That takes a lot of energy for them. So thank them for the effort. And if it doesn't scare you, ask them to do it again. If they were able to do it once, they'll probably be able to pull it off again. I can't make any promises on their behalf. Each spirit's different. But if you're lucky enough to get an apparition, if you're lucky enough to be one of those few people who see an appearance from your loved one, count your blessings. Know that your loved one is still with you. They most likely popped up in your life because you need direction. You need to know that they're okay. There's something happening where they chose that moment in time to manifest physically. So that is something you really want to honor and that you want to pay attention to. Try to overcome the temptation to tell yourself that this is just in your head. Take a look at the other things happening in your life. Figure out why they're showing up now and ask them if they have a message for you, because they probably do. So number 11 on the list is lights and orbs. So these can be lights that really shine out of nowhere. You know, you may have a section in your dark room that just kind of lights up for no reason or is lighter than the rest of the room. There's a light coming from there and you can't make heads or tails of where it's coming from. You might actually see orbs. I've seen physical orbs before, or I should say I've seen light orbs with my physical eyes, and again, couldn't figure out what was causing them. That's a great sign that spirits are near you. But they can also pop up on photographs and videos. But here's where you need to be careful. There are different forms of light that show up on video that are not spirit communications. They're not spirits. It's not a spirit trying to get through to you. A true orb usually has a very bright center and it's going to have an interesting energy around it. So the easiest way for me to share with you what an orb is to show you what it isn't. So this picture right here of dust, that's dust. I know it shows up really cool on camera, but I get so many emails from people sending me pictures of dust that they caught on camera and saying, isn't this so cool? I think that this is, whoever they think it is on the other side. And, I never correct them on that because I never want to crush a person's spirit, but that's not an orb. That's not an orb. So an orb, again, it's going to have a really interesting signature to it. It's going to light up most likely from the inside. It's going to have a really interesting movement to it. It may follow someone. It may follow an interesting path. Very rarely does it just do a boring up or down motion. There's going to be an intelligence to it in the way that it's moving. The other thing that people will sometimes do is they'll send me security footage at something at night, usually something that they got through their Ring camera, and it'll be a bug. And because those Ring cameras aren't exactly the highest quality, everything can be a little pixelated. So they'll send me the footage of the of the Ring security camera, and really what's happening is it's just the light from the porch bouncing off of the fly or whatever bug it is, and that light is reflecting on the camera kind of weird, so it can look like an orb that is, you know, flying by or buzzing by. So an orb's going to have very specific qualities to it, and if you just take a little time to look at the difference between dust particles and how they reflect on camera versus an orb, you'll know the difference. Another thing that happens frequently is people will send me pictures of lens flares. So a lens flare usually shows up as green or blue. And the reason that that'll show up is because when your camera is capturing either a video or an image of whatever it is you're taking a picture of or whatever it is that you're filming, it's taking light in from all the sources around it. So even if your camera is pointed this way, it's still consuming light from the sides of the camera, from the bottom, from the top. You know, it's still absorbing all of that. And so a lot of times what will happen is people will send me a picture of a bonfire, or they'll send me footage of a full moon. There's different footage that they'll send me, different photos that they'll send me, and they'll be like, oh my God, look at this green light that I captured, or look at this blue light that I captured. And it's really just a lens flare. And I know that because if you take a picture of a bonfire and you have like a red dot to the side, or not a red dot, although it can be red, usually it's going to be blue or green. It's just something that pops up on the camera, on the lens, as it's absorbing this tremendous amount of light. So you want to be mindful of that. That said, orbs and lights do pop up frequently, like actual orbs and lights do pop up frequently on videos, on camera. So I don't want you to dismiss this. I want you to just be aware of what the difference is, because when your loved ones do come through and they shine bright as an orb, or they're able to project their energy enough to be a light source, I think that's really miraculous, and I think it's something that deserves attention. So just do a little homework before you definitively decide that what you've captured is an orb versus something like dust, a bug, or a lens flare. Last, but certainly not least, and actually probably fairly common, I would say, is goosebumps and cold spots and chills that you get. So let me tell you yet another story. So soon after I moved into the home that I'm in now, it was very apparent that there was some ghostly activity taking place in this house. And the spirits here are actually very lovely. They're friendly. But I think that they wanted to be sure that they weren't going to be exorcised and we weren't going to try to kick them out of the house, which we honestly never thought of doing because, you know, not picking up anything negative from them. They were really active when we first moved in. So I had this interesting experience that took place probably just 2 or 3 months after moving in here. I was walking through the closet door and I felt a spirit move through me, and I instantly got chills from the very top of my head all the way down to my toes, and I had goosebumps all over the place. These were the biggest goosebumps I have ever seen my skin create. And I was hurrying to take a picture of it because I was so fascinated by it. And I was also a little shocked too, because it was like, whoa, what was that? Took a picture of it. It didn't come out. Otherwise, I'd show it to you. But yeah, these goosebumps were massive. And the chills that I got and everything. It was just, whew, man. It was a very interesting experience. And it was very intense and very quick. But I mean intense in like a good way. Not that I was scared or anything like that. It was interesting. It was fascinating. I've had spirits brush by me before. I have felt tingling on one side of my body indicating that a spirit is near. This was the first time I got hit full blast with a spirit that was clearly like moving through me. So that was very, very interesting, very unique. But you might get chills and goosebumps, especially goosebumps, when a spirit is near you, because whether you consider yourself intuitive or psychic or not, you do have an auric field. Your body is able to sense everything that's around it. And so if you have a spirit nearby, your body and the energy frequency that your body puts out is able to tune into and pick up on the energy frequency of that spirit, of that soul. And so when that happens, your mind and your body are trying to figure out how best to interpret the information that it's receiving. So you might get the sensation of goosebumps, of chills, of a cold breeze, because that's the best way that your extrasensory and your physical sensory faculties know how to interpret the information that it's receiving. It doesn't know what else to do. So I hope that all of the signs in this video have been helpful to you, because I know that when someone you love has passed away, it can be really confusing to get different signs because there's a part of you that wants them so badly that you wonder if you're making it up. And then it doesn't help if you have people in your community, whether it's your friends or your family or whoever, that maybe don't believe in these things or aren't very supportive of you when you just start to contemplate if your loved one in spirit is visiting. So if you have someone shooting it down, shooting those beliefs down, or shooting down just your perception, shooting down your what ifs, that can be really heartbreaking, and that can toy with your mind too. So I want you to start moving forward from this day on with a curious mind. I want you to start asking yourself, what if it's a spirit? I want you to trust your experience. I want you to trust your gut feelings. I want you to trust your eyes. I want you to trust your ears. I want you to trust your brain. I want you to trust your spirit. And I want you to trust the experiences that you have with electricity, with orbs, with your things going missing or moving right in front of you. You're not going crazy. You're having a spirit visitation. And it's actually pretty awesome. And the more you recognize the different symbols and the different signs that spirit is sending to you, and the more that you're grateful for them, and the more you say to them, hey, that was awesome, can you do it again? The more signs you're going to get. And I do believe that at some point, those signs will turn into some form of communication between you and your loved one. It's definitely possible. So if you want to learn more about that, you can check out my online course called Embracing Heaven. But also I'd like to invite you to check out these other videos to the side, because I have plenty of videos here on YouTube that'll teach you a little bit more about spirit communication, dream visitations, all that jazz. So be sure that you check those out. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.